What's going on guys, Kade is here and welcome back to a brand new video. For today I will show you the top 4 best PvE builds in New World. So for each and every single build I will explain what attributes, weapon masteries and even weapon and gear perks you want to have. Then what gems and specific gear you want to use to get out your stats as much damage as possible. Then as well I will show you the best gameplay of me using different weapons so you would know which abilities you want to use first on the PvE mobs to get to the best results, efficiency and much more. So if all this sounds interesting to you, then let's get right into it. So then moving over to the first build, and for the weapons you want to go with the musket and spear, and these are the attributes you want to have. So basically this build is structured around doing a lot of damage from very far distance, but at the same time if you get attacked then you can apply even more damage and stuns to the enemy. So then no matter from which level you start using this build, you first of all want to get your dexterity to 300 and then start putting points in intelligence. And around level 60 you should have 300 dexterity and 150 intelligence. And as this is a full glass cannon build, you want to go with the light category, and the best gear setup is to have one medium chest piece and then the rest light armor. So then taking a closer look at the first weapon, which is the musket, and these are the weapon masteries you want to have. So first things first, you want to get this one perk and then unlock the first ability called the powder burn, and then get these two perks. Then afterwards get the second ability called the shooter stance, and then get these two perks as well. And now from here let's move over to the other side and unlock these two perks. And then lastly get the third ability called the sticky shot, and then get these two perks, and that's it. Now from this moment you can spend your points in whatever way you want. So then going over to the second weapon, which is the spear, and these are the weapon masteries you want to have. So first of all you want to unlock this one perk and then get the first ability called the sweep, and then get these two perks. Then now let's go over to the other side and unlock these two perks. And then afterwards get the second and third ability called the vault kick and perforate, and then unlock these 4 perks. And now again from this point you can unlock all the other perks in whatever order you like. Okay, so then let's go over to the gameplay where I'll show you the best way to play this build. So then for the first weapon we have the musket, and the first Q ability is called the powder burn, which overloads your musket with gunpowder, dealing increased damage, and on the hit the enemy will get a burning effect, which will be doing damage over time. Then the second ability is called the shooter stance, which when you activate makes your character enter this crouching position, which deals damage and gives you the option to shoot 5 bullets with 75% reduced reloading time. And then lastly the third ability is called the sticky shot, which throws a short range shot that sticks to the target, and after 3 seconds it will explode, which will do a bunch of damage in 3-meter range. So then moving over to the second weapon, which is the spear, and the first Q ability is called the sweep, which if you hit the enemy makes him drop down to the ground. Then the second ability is called the perforate, and when you use it, it does 3 super fast spear attacks. And if you hit the target with all of them, he gets stunned for extra second or 2. And then lastly we have the vault kick ability, and if you land it you will stun the enemy for 1.5 seconds. Okay, so then moving over to the combat, and mostly this build is meant to do a bunch of damage from very far distance. So what you want to do is mainly use your musket light attacks. So before pulling mobs I use the shooter stance ability and shoot as many mobs as I can. Then while running away from the mobs I use the sticky shot and the powder burn as long as the mobs are not too close to me. And then when all of my musket abilities are on cooldown I keep on using the light attacks, only if the mobs are easy enough to just run away from and shoot them at the same time. But on the other hand, if you can't run away from the mobs and they're super close to you, then now switch to the spear, and on grouped up enemies use the sweep ability, and then activate the perforate ability, which will do 3 super fast spear attacks. And then lastly I mainly use this on bigger mobs or bosses, but use the vault kick and stun your enemies for 1.5 extra seconds. So don't forget, for as long as you can keep on shooting with the musket, but then when you need to switch to the spear for close combat, and that's about it. So now for my last and final conclusions for this build. This musket and spear weapon combination is the highest PvE damage build in the game, and with the abilities and perks we have selected, we mainly focus on very high light attack damage. So then for our gem choice for the musket and spear, you want to use the sapphire gems. And then lastly for all of your gear, amulets, rings and everything else, use the Enix gems. And then on top of all this, to find out the best weapon and gear perks, watch this video. which is titled "Which weapon and gear perks are the best for your build." You can find the link in this video's description or just scroll through my channel. And in that specific guide I will explain how perks work and which ones are the best for your gear and weapons and much more. So if you're looking for the highest damage build possible in PvE and right now the current meta weapons, then for sure try this build out and I hope you have fun. So then moving over to the second build, and for your weapons we want to go with the sword and warhammer, and these are the attributes you want to have. So then no matter from which level you start using this build, like you can see, you always want to split all of your attribute points to half. So divide 50% into strength and 50 in constitution. And around level 60 you should have 250 strength and 200 constitution. And last but not the least, for your gear you want to go with the full heavy armor and you have to use a shield as well. So then for our first weapon we have the best tanking weapon, aka the sword with shield. And then these are the weapon masteries you want to have. So first things first, right off from the start you want to unlock both these two abilities called the Shield Rush and Shield Bash, and then get these 3 perks. Then afterwards get the last third ability called the Defiant Stance, and then get the next perk to him as well. And now from here let's move over to the other side and unlock both these 2 perks, and that's it. Now from this moment you can spend your points in whatever order you like. Okay, and now let's move over to the second weapon, which is the warhammer, and these are the weapon masteries you want to have. So first of all you want to unlock the first ability called the Clear Out, and then get these 2 perks. Then afterwards unlock the second ability called the Shockwave, and then get these 2 perks to that as well. And lastly unlock the last third ability called the Path of Destiny, and then get these 2 perks. And now from this point let's take a closer look at the left side and unlock all these 3 perks, and that's it. Now again you can spend your points in whatever order you like. Okay, so now let's go over to the gameplay where I'll show you the best way to play this build. So then for our first weapon we have the sword, and the first Q spell is called the Shield Rush. And this ability makes your character run very fast for 5 meters. And if you hit the target while running he will get knocked back. Then the second ability is called the Shield Bash, which when you use it, it will deal a bit of damage and stun your enemies in front of you for 2 to 3 seconds. And by the way, this is the longest stunning ability in the game. And if you're using the taunt gem, then this ability activates the taunt passive as well, which will make all of the mobs that you hit aggro on you instead of your teammates. And then the third ability is called the Defiant Stance, which you can activate, and for the next 8 seconds your resistance is increased. Or again, if you're using the taunt gem, then you can activate the spell and increase your threat level, which will make all the mobs target you for the second time. And as a tank role, this is mainly what you want to keep on doing. So then for the second weapon we have the warhammer, and the first Q spell is called the Clear Out, and it is a wide swing that knocks back all targets in 4-meter range. Then the R ability is called the Shockwave, and when using the spell it will give us the ability to slam down the hammer and create a small earthquake, and all players standing in it will get stunned for 2 seconds. And lastly we have the F ability called the Path of Destiny, which creates a huge electric wave, and all enemies standing in this path will be taking bunch of damage. So then the way you want to use this build for PvE is to first of all remember your main job as a tank, which is to keep all the enemy attention on you, which you can do by first of all activating the Shield Bash ability, and in the next few seconds try to hit as many mobs as you can. Then when that ability effect has run out, then use your Defiant Stance, and this time all the enemies in 8-meter range will automatically aggro on you. So for that time you mainly want to use the shield mechanic and keep on blocking the incoming damage. And then lastly, if you ever see a healer or other DPS player in trouble, or he gets overwhelmed by mobs, then use the Shield Rush ability and knock back the target. Then after that is done, we can now switch to the Warhammer, and this weapon's main objective is to deal damage and stun your enemies. So while your most important tanking skills are on cooldown, you want to use the Warhammer, and on grouped up enemies use the Shockwave and then Path of Destiny, and this will stun and do bunch of AoE damage. And then lastly, if again you ever need to help out your teammates, or if you're playing by yourself and need a second or two for the mobs to back off from you, then use the Clear Out ability and knock back the target, and that's about it. So now for my last and final conclusions for this build. The sword and warhammer weapon combination right now is super strong in expeditions and in general for PvE, because you can survive very long by yourself and make all the mobs target you so the rest of your team can deal damage. And then lastly, for the gem choice for the sword and warhammer, you want to use the carnelian taunt gem if you specifically want to do PvE with a group of players and your main role is a tank. But then on the other hand, if you're not a tank or playing by yourself, then the second best gem choice is the malachite gems. And then for all of your gear, amulets, rings and everything else, use the Enix gems. And then again, like I explained in the first build, to find out the best weapon and gear perks, watch this video, which is titled "Which weapon and gear perks are the best for your build?" You can find the link in this video's description or just scroll through my channel. So what are you waiting for? Try this build out and don't forget to enjoy. So then moving over to the third build, and for the weapons we want to use the Void Gauntlet and Ice Gauntlet, and these are the attributes you want to have. So first things first, if you start from level 0, you want to get your intelligence to 150 and then start building your constitution. And around level 60 you should have 300 intelligence and 150 constitution. And last but not the least, for your gear you want to be in the medium category. And the best gear setup is heavy helmet, heavy chest armor, medium gloves, light pants and medium boots. So then moving over to the first weapon, which is the Void Gauntlet, and these are the weapon masteries you want to have. So first of all you want to unlock both these two abilities called the Void Blade and Oblivion, and then get these 5 perks. Then afterwards get the last third ability called the Petrifying Scream, and then get these 2 perks, and that's it. Now from this moment you can unlock all the other perks in whatever way you like. Okay, so now let's move over to the second weapon, which is the Ice Gauntlet, and these are the weapon masteries you want to have. So first of all you want to unlock these 3 perks and then get the first ability called the Ice Storm, and then get these 3 perks. Then from here let's move over to the other side and get this 1 perk, and then unlock both these 2 abilities called the Ice Storm and, as I like to call it, the Ice Block, and then get these 3 perks, and that's it. Now again, you can spend your points in whatever order you want. Okay, so now let's go over to the gameplay where I'll show you the best way to play this build. So first of all, for the Void Gauntlet we have the first Q ability called the Void Blade, which turns your weapon into a dagger that you can use as a melee weapon, and each hit increases your damage and reduces the enemy's damage absorption by 5%. Then the second ability is called the Oblivion, which creates a circle around you, and you and your teammates inside the circle will be getting 20% damage increase. But on the other hand, your enemy standing in the circle will be taking void damage every second. And a really nice thing to do is, while standing in the circle, do a bunch of medium jumps. And because of the perks we have selected, we and any other allies in the circle will be getting plus 15 stamina each jump. So this will give us the ability to dodge more enemy attacks and gain more stamina at the same time. And then lastly we have the third ability called the Petrifying Scream, which when using will unleash a Void Scream, and this will stagger and root enemies in front of you. And then there is one more thing that you need to know. So if you hold the right mouse button you can regain more mana, but in exchange your health will go down. I would definitely not recommend to use this mechanic, but in very rare scenarios, if you really are at full health and your mana potions are on cooldown, then use it for a second or two and you should be good to go. But like I've said, for non-healer builds you should only use it very rarely. So then for the second weapon we have the Ice Gauntlet, and your Q spell is called the Ice Storm, which all enemies standing in it will get damaged and slowed, and the more enemies you hit the higher damage you will get. Then the R ability is called the Ice Shower, which when using will create an ice wall, and if a player goes through it, it will stun him. And this ability is very useful in trapping your targets. And then lastly, the third ability is called the Ice Block, which by activating you put yourself in a block where you cannot take any damage. But of course you can go out to that ice block by pressing the same F key, or instead press the left mouse button and make it explode, which will do a bunch of damage to the enemy and remove any negative effects that were previously applied to you. So then as far as your ability combinations go for the Ice Gauntlet, when farming mobs or in general for PvE, the best thing to do is pull all the mobs on you and then put the Ice Storm, and then right after go Ice Block. And this will damage all the mobs and at the same time protect you. So then when these abilities run out of their duration, then now place the Ice Shower and right after switch to the Void Gauntlet and activate the Void Blade, and then place the Oblivion spell, so this will stun the enemies and give you time to activate the circle. So then just keep on using the auto attacks till again the abilities run out, and then lastly wait for the Void Blade ability to come back, or just in case if you ever get in trouble then use the Petrifying Scream and stun your targets, and that's about it. So then for my last and final conclusions for this build. This Void Gauntlet and Ice Gauntlet weapon combination is very high damage And if you use this ability the way I showed you, then you can do bunch of damage while at the same time taking almost zero damage in return. So then for our gem choice for the Void Gauntlet, you want to get the Opal gem. Then for your Ice Gauntlet, get the Malachite gem. And then for all of your gear, rings, amulets and everything else, use the Enix gems. And then on top of all this, to find out the best weapon and gear perks, watch this video, which is titled "Which weapon and gear perks are the best for your build?" You can find the link in description or just scroll through my channel. And in that specific video I will explain how perks work and which ones are the best for your gear and weapons and much more. So in a quick summary, if you're looking for the best PVE and my most favorite Ice Gauntlet build, then this is the one for you, so have fun. And that's about it. So I really do appreciate everyone for watching guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions, feedback or other good new world builds that you would like to see in the next video, then feel free to leave your comments in the comment section down below. And while you're doing that, please click like, subscribe and enable that notification bell, so this way you could support the channel and you won't miss any more amazing content from me. With all this said, you have an amazing day and I will see you in my next video, so take it easy, peace.